So in this video, I'm going to talk about whether your book cover is good enough and how to find out if it isn't. This is kind of a tricky subject. I actually had a site a couple years ago. I put up something that was doesmycoversuck.com. It was kind of a hot or not dating site where people could rate your cover, which is still a really cool idea. I had trouble managing it and keeping it updated, so I scrapped the whole project. But the problem with that kind of site is that when you ask for feedback, you're going to get feedback from a lot of people who aren't necessarily your target market, and also they're going to give you feedback in a different way than they would if they were just seeing your book cover on Amazon. So like when they go to Amazon, they would just see it and click or not click. They're not really aware of their decisions about why they clicked a cover. Whereas if you post on Facebook for feedback, you'll get a lot of comments because people are really considering and thinking about those covers. But on the one hand, they don't really know what they're talking about, and on the other hand, they're approaching the cover in a different way than they would if it was just on Amazon. So asking for feedback is kind of useless. However, it's great pre-marketing. Something I still do quite often is I'll have different covers and I'll ask my audience which cover they like better, because that's it gets them engaged, it gets them in my publishing process. They get to feel like they have some say over what kinds of books I'm putting out. However, I also know that, in that case, like my email list is very targeted. I only have people on my list who are fans of my fiction. So getting their advice is a lot more valuable than getting like my family's advice. If I post on Facebook, I would just get friends and family, and they don't really know my genre and they don't know cover design. So you have to kind of know that even while you should be asking for feedback because it's a great way to start getting pre-interest in your book, you don't want to take it as gospel, especially if you get like 10 comments and 4 of them say they like this one. That's a majority or something. You want to test with lots and lots of people, and you want to get real results in terms of clicks and sales rather than just some comments. So testing conversions is something a little bit different. Some of the ways you can do it is you can put up an advertising campaign on Facebook. Something I like to do is I can show just the book cover and the text and see how many people are clicking on that, and then just show the text only and see if that makes a difference, or just the text. A lot of times on Facebook you can advertise without the cover but just some really pretty picture that appeals to your target market. So if a lot of people are clicking your pretty picture and your text, or your text alone, but when they go over to Amazon, they're not going through and buying it, or when they go to your landing page, like once they see the cover, you're dropping in conversions, that's a clue that your cover might be the problem. You could also try, like Tim Ferriss' 4-Hour Work Week famously tested several titles to see which title converted better. So you could just start running ads. Like if you had 3 or 4 different cover samples, you could start running ads and seeing which of those ads gets the most clicks. Once you're at the point where you're actually selling your book, the nice thing about being an indie publisher is that you can really just change your cover all the time. So for me, if I want to test out a new cover, I don't think it's a big deal to swap the other cover for a week and then swap back and see if I can measure a difference in sales. But if you want to publish a book with just one cover and you want to make sure it's the absolute best cover you can possibly have, it's a matter of getting a lot of the right kind of feedback, and the right kind of feedback is specific clicks and conversions. So you really want to be testing advertising. You want to be testing it to your target readership that's very fine-tuned, so it's really the right readers and they're going to respond well or not respond well to your cover. And you can use some of that data to figure out if your cover is a problem. One last thing about getting feedback: what a lot of authors do is they'll get like 3 or 4 variations that are very nearly identical, like the same designer, the same picture, just like tiny variations in detail or text. Those little things aren't really going to make a big difference in sales anyway, and a lot of the times when authors post stuff on Facebook and they say, which of these covers do you like better, they're all really bad covers. That happens a lot in some of the groups that I'm in. And so when you give people an option of 3 really bad covers, they'll pick the best one, but that still may not be strong enough to sell any books. So you need to, it's weird with cover design. You need to do the best you can. It's fine if you don't have a huge budget to afford a more professional design. But you also need to put in some time and effort to making sure that you're not just choosing the cover you like, or you're not, like, you could probably be doing better. And the cover is so important. It is useful to try to get some of this feedback or data before you just decide to run with it. And then finally, there's a pass-fail test. So a cover design, like the difference between a cover that's good enough and professionally designed and one that's really fantastic may not make that big a difference in sales, because when people are finding your Amazon page, like if they're clicking on the cover and buying the book, if it's kind of working, it's probably good enough. But if it's not working, nobody's clicking on the cover, you're not getting any sales, then your cover's failed. You need a new cover. So there's really a yes or no. Is it working or is it not working? It's only after you get to the pass, and then like you have a cover, okay, it's working pretty well. And a lot of times people ask me if the cover is good enough, like they think the cover isn't good enough because they're not selling. So I check out their Amazon page and they don't have very many reviews. They have like 3 or 4 reviews, or the reviews aren't very good, or the sales copy isn't very good. The sales copy doesn't include any keywords, because if nobody's seeing the book, if your book is like over 500,000 in the sales ranks, if nobody's seeing your book anyway, the cover totally doesn't matter, and you have another problem. So first, you have to drive some visibility. You can do that by fixing your sales description and putting in some keywords. You can do it by advertising or getting more blog content out there. If you're driving visibility and your book is visible, then you can figure out if it's not converting, if they're not buying the book. And that's when the cover can really matter, and you can start testing out different covers. But a lot of the times when people ask me, sometimes the cover is good enough, and it's just that they don't have reviews, and the description isn't very good, and the description doesn't have any keywords, they don't get any visibility. There's a lot of, like, your whole page has to be working well. Your cover is one part of it, but it's also kind of like the first part of it. It's the first part in that sales funnel that goes to your Amazon page, and it goes through the checkout process. So you want to make sure that it's good enough, but if it is good enough, then that's not really your problem. You have other problems you need to fix. I'm going to stop this video here and then talk about some common mistakes.